G'day and welcome again to another Campfire Project discussion. And today, first of all, I have with me Rose Davidson, who's a domestic violence and mental health advocate. How are you, Rose?
I'm very well, Alan. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on.
Welcome to the show, and thank you for calling in all the way from Tasmania. And then we have Scott Carson, who's a men's coach and founder of the Sunday Sessions. How are you, Scott?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Alan. Thank you for having me on again.
Excellent to have you here again. And last but not least is Sue Mathieson, who is a transformation coach. How are you, Sue?
I'm great. Thanks, Alan. Good to be here again. Yeah.
It's always lovely to have you here. It's really great to have the three of you here today, especially with the weather that we've been having and everything else, you know, internet problems and other things that have been going on. One of the things that has come up a lot in discussion has been the bushfires that we've had over here and talking about financial recovery and things like that. But one of the issues that we really have is the recovery from the mental anguish, etc. Because I know that rebuilding the community is only a short, so it may not take a long time to do. But all the people who have gone through fires before and gone through them again, all their angst and other issues have come back again. So today's discussion was about how do we help those people? What sort of things can we expect and how can we help them? So who would like to start us off today?
I'll go.
Yep.
Go. Unless you'd like to go, Sue. I'm happy.
No, go, Scott.
Okay.
Go.
This is a very, very serious issue. And it's something that the world's eyes are on us at the moment. And they're watching how we deal with this, because the issue is not just the fires. The issue is how we recover from these fires and what we learn and what we take forward. And I think it's a great opportunity to showcase Australians being Australians. And for that, I feel there's going to be a lot of information that will come out through these fires. I think there's a lot of things that we can do. And one of the big things which we were just talking about is, where is all the money going at the moment? The money's not going directly to everybody. And there's a lot of angst over what's happening with that, because a lot of people did a lot of great things in donating money and putting a big pool together. I've been lucky enough that I've had the opportunity to sit with the fire chief from Wye River, Andy Hack, who is an amazing man, and he talks a lot about communities and where a lot of the bushfires are. It is a lot of smaller communities. It's not a Melbourne or a Sydney. It's a lot of smaller communities that have been affected. And the amazing information I got from him about how things work in the communities. So for me, I'm really interested in to hear what Sue's and Rose's and Alan's opinions are on how they're feeling about the fires at the moment. How you're feeling things are going and things being handled, because the media is hammering us with information and it's hurting. So, I'll throw it over to you, Sue, to hear how you feel.
I think it's at many, many different levels, to be honest. And I would agree with you that we have been put in the spotlight internationally with the coverage that was given, particularly at the time that the bushfires were happening. And we've got an incredible opportunity to showcase leadership. Now, we're not, for me personally, I don't think we're seeing it at the level that we would like to. However, come below the level of politicians, there's an incredible opportunity for others to step up. And it's really about how can we come together as Australians through our different communities and change our way of thinking to a way where we can unite, embrace new ideas, embrace, for example, whether it's Aboriginal culture and how we can look after our land. There's so many different levels that we can, I think, move in, whether it's mental health, as an example as well. How's it impacted me? I guess, yeah, I'd see opportunity, but I was devastated to watch the loss of life, loss of wildlife. It's left me with this sense of, what can I do?
Mm.
And that's, to be honest, part of where I'm struggling is, what action can I take that is not just superficial, that is really going to make a difference? And I must admit, I'm probably searching a little bit for an answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rose?
Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit the same. You're right about the media, but, you know, media, are they reporting everything that's truthful, or, you know, are they doing it for headlines? You know, we don't know that for a fact. You know, I've had dealings with the media, and they're not always, they sensationalise things to just and get viewers and whatever. So I don't really know, and because I haven't been on the ground where the fires were, I don't know how people are feeling. I've lived in small communities, so I know that when there's a tragedy or whatever, that they all pull together in some way. But yeah, but as far as what Sue was saying about mental health, are they, you know, are they being looked after in that way? You know, that what they've lost, you know, they've lost lifetimes worth of memories, which can't be replaced. But I mean, I know they've still got their life, but how will they move forward? You know, knowing that they have lost something and they weren't protected from the fires as well as they could have been, because help came too late. There weren't enough volunteer firefighters, there weren't enough regular firefighters, and the reserves were brought in far too late. You know, I don't believe that the reason given for that is a plausible one. I think that they should have been brought in from the outset, when the fires were, you know, so bad in the beginning. So, you know, who's looking after the mental health of the communities, basically? And it's important that it's important that their mental wellness is looked after well before they get a new house or a new car or a new shop or whatever, you know, because I think that the vision of them seeing, you know, their life just lost in seconds is going to haunt them forever. And I don't think enough in Australia is placed on mental health issues. I think there's too much placed on other areas, and mental health, I think, really is mental health. Sorry, I've got a mind block there.
It's an important part, the mental health side of things.
Thank you. Yes, yeah.
Because
it's what I'm trying to say, that people just aren't looking after the mental health of the communities and the people that are involved, the fireys and the you know, the other emergency workers, and you know, they have places to go to, but the normal people that have lost everything don't really have anywhere, and I don't think enough money is being spent on it, and I just don't think there's enough happening to alleviate that at all.
Yeah, well, when we look at it and we look at the money side of it, the focus always goes to money, but then the money goes to things. And that's where I start to wonder, how much do we really, well, the powers that be, the people who are involved in all of the organisation of this stuff, how much do they really understand the importance of the relationships and the mental health side of it? And are we just putting too much emphasis on, yeah, let's throw some money at it, let people rebuild material stuff? And, you know, in this day and age, with all the mental health issues, all the conferences that are going around, the research that's being done, we're still not putting any attention to it.
No,
not enough.
People just aren't getting it. They're just not getting that. You're right. It's things. I mean, things can be given, but mental health can't be given. You know, it's a health issue, and without your mental health, it's, you know, it affects your body in so many different ways. And so, if you're not healthy in your mind, you can't be healthy in your body.
That's it.
I wonder if that is partly an indication of the inability of our leaders to change their way of thinking, because it's easy then to throw money at things. You can, there's a physical change, you see buildings being built again, whereas rebuilding someone's mental health and helping them in that space is not obviously tangible.
No,
And yet,
it's not.
and yet, longer term, you will see an external or an outward result in a positive way. But it's, I just wonder if it's in the too hard basket for our leaders.
Yeah.
And so it's easy just to throw the money at things. And really the challenge then becomes people need to be open to change, a new way of thinking, reframing their thinking.
No, there's a new thing. It's not called mindset anymore. It's called mind shift. Mind shift is where you actually shift your thinking, where mindset is, it's different. So, you know, they have to shift the way that they're thinking, not shift their mindset. They have to shift the way that they think about stuff. And that's not happening. It's not happening in any of the areas that I'm aware of. It's a new sort of concept. I know it's been around for a while, but it's now being spoken about a lot more. And I think, as you're saying, our politicians need to shift the way that they're thinking about things. It's not just throwing money at people. It's actually getting down and helping and putting those resources out there to the wider community. And it's not happening. You know, you look at our hospitals are underfunded with mental health. You know, there's not enough. There's just not enough happening.
And I think that's, but I think that's where we as a community have the opportunity to challenge our leaders and say, it's not acceptable. We've got scientific evidence, we've got a whole lot of evidence to support that the results from that shift in thinking. We want that, we demand that.
We change, but how do you do that? They don't listen. I mean,
And that's where the question comes in, because I know that my dealings with the government at the beginning of since the turn of the century, there was always, you know, the comment was how important something was to them, how much money they threw at it. I got that again in 2012 when it came to the kids at school. Yes, kids are most important to us, but we spend so many $100 million on them, but we don't look at third parties or anything new. We're not into innovation. 2016, the letter I got then was a cut and paste of the one that I got in 2012. It was almost identical except for the figure that they put in, that they'd spent on the kids. And so the biggest question is, how do we, the people, advise the government on how to change the way they do it? Because they're so locked into the, you know, it's like any program, you run it and run it. It's like a record. You keep running that record, you're going to build the track deeper and deeper. So how do we get them out of that track that they're so inground into? What advice can we give them? How can we speak to them to get them to, you know, shift that mindset and start doing things differently?
I think the time's come that we don't speak to them, because we have to go back to our communities. Like there was a conversation with the Canadian chap, I can't remember his name, on the Campfire. Great watch, and I recommend everyone watch it, because we're talking about how do you change the political scene, because it's not great. It's financial. Everything I'm hearing at the moment is where's the money? Where's the money? It's all about the money. It needs to be about the people, and the people who know best how to deal with people are the people in those communities. So you've got to support the life-saving clubs. You've got to support the football clubs, all the places where communities go. That's the key to changing things. And in order to make a big change in life, sorry, I'm waving my penny away. We need to, we actually need to make the decision ourselves to make a difference. And that was what I got out of that conversation, which was absolutely brilliant. If Alan, you can put the conversation under this one, because we only have to take one little step for ourselves to make a difference politically. If we want to know what's the best thing to do inside these communities, it's actually go there. Physically go there and spend time inside these communities, because they are going to have all different levels of emotional needs when on the recovery of this fire. Maybe I'm a little bit different in the aspect that I believe this is one of the greatest opportunities we will ever have to showcase humanity. Because I think right now is the time when we get to decide how we are treated as people. We get to hear each other. The most important thing we can do right now is go and hear the stories of these people. I'm privileged to have been a part of the Wye River community, and I'm becoming more a part of that community. One of the things that Andy Hack did with his two children, aged 7 and 11, they wrote a book. The kids wrote a book based upon these fires, and they shared their experience. In doing so, they were able to release their emotions in a safe environment. I would love to see people going into the schools and getting kids to write the books about these fires, put together a coalition of all the information they experienced, the photos, the pain, the emotions, the recovery. Because half of the battle is to actually get people talking about it and owning it, because it sits inside their head, and it's the difference between being able to recover completely is owning the situation, not having outside people taking it. And one of the things that I've sort of heard about the fires is kids have been watching the fires on TV, and it's been building them up inside. It's giving them more intensity about the situation already. What can we do? We're going to spend time in these communities. People like us who have dealt with our own shit, and that's why we're sitting here on these panels, because we know how important it is to own your story. So we're going to help other people own their story. We take the time to listen. That's why the campfire for me has been one of the most beautiful places I've ever been at, because inside here, I get to hear you. I get to know you. That's what we need to do as a collective inside these places. Inside all these fires, there was a 5,000-year-old boomerang for you. There's going to be a lot of new opportunities we're going to be able to see and work. Everybody's now talking about the Aboriginal heritage that we have in Australia, which for me, after reading Dark Emu, I want to know about. That is my history. I am Australian. My history is colonialisation. It's Aboriginal history. I'm proud Australian. So sorry, I'm on a tangent, but I'm passionate about this because we can make a difference.
Yeah. By the way, I don't really see it as a tangent because it's, well, number one, it's a passion that's there. Number two, it's talking about the communities. It's just another extension of that communities, because this is something not just in the bushfires, but we should be doing everywhere. That's, you know, when you've got a child a couple of kids who write a story, how many other kids out there have got that same story inside them? To be able to show them a way and help them to get their voice out there, and you put all those together, as you said, you've then got something that you take to the politicians and say, hey, this is what our youngest people are talking about. They're not getting on stage and ranting or anything else, but this is what was inside them, and we took a bit for it to draw it out of them. And we drew it out so they don't end up with the mental health issues. So we've done a lot towards helping reduce mental health, because those kids, if they just keep it inside, that's just something that builds up and builds up. They're not dealing with it. So we need to be able to do that. And this really, as you say, it comes down to, it's not with the government anymore. It's coming down to us as a community, of us, you know, people getting out and doing it. Lisa Jane, who did the interview with me earlier on in the week, she's put together Bungie, which is a free website for therapists to go in and donate some time to give to people in the bushfire communities, so that they gift that time to them. And, you know, what do the therapists get out of it? We get to help those people and the feelings that come from feeling worthwhile, that our time has been valued. And then you've got Jackie Bloom with the Healing Hub. And again, similar thing there, but also gifting service. So some people go, but how can I help other people? I'm not a therapist. Well, it could be gifting, you know, people will be putting a list of things that they need. It might be just some cleaning. It might be something that takes away a bit of daily pressure from them by giving them a service. You can gift that in money. There's myriad different ways that each and every one of us can help. You know, it's not a matter of looking at going, well, I'm limited. It's a matter of going, well, in what area can I give the most? What can I actually bring forward? Not look at, well, I'm not a therapist, so I can't do this, or I'm not that, and I can't do that.
But you don't have to be a therapist to listen.
No.
You only have to be a therapist to, you know, give advice, basically. But, you know, you can give an opinion, but and you don't need to be a therapist to do that. I mean, a lot of people just need someone to listen to their story, and empathise and just be there, So you don't need to be a therapist for that.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. Because a lot of people think that, well, I've got to have those particular skills. But how many times have we heard stories of somebody just talking to somebody or listening to their story, and years later them coming back and saying, well, that changed my life in that moment.
I'll tell you a little story about that. My husband and I owned a fish and chip shop in Queensland. And this lady used to come to the shop every single day and just sit on the bench, and my husband tried to get a conversation out of her, and she wouldn't talk. And this went on for about a month. Every day for a month she came in and just sat there and said nothing. And then one day she didn't come back, and she didn't come back for 6 months. I think it was 6 months. She came back and she thanked my husband for just listening to talking to her. She had an issue. As she went away, she had some therapy done, and she came back and thanked him just for being there, talking to her. So our shop was like a therapy pool. People would come and just, like your barber shop or your hairdresser or whatever, people would come and sit down on the bench and just talk their heads off, because they just needed someone to talk to, someone to listen to their story, where they had a bad day, or they had an issue at home with their spouse, or their kids were, mucking up or whatever. And my husband's got a good ear, and I always thought that he should have been, a counsellor of some type, because he's particularly good with children. But yeah, it's just someone just to listen. It makes you feel better, because you're right, Scott, it's just getting it off your chest, and just having that listening ear without being criticised or whatever, because you're in so much pain. Yes, so it's that thing that we could all be doing.
Can I ask something, Rose? Because it's something Alan just said that I have had trouble with. I'm not so much now. Are you a therapist?
No.
Yeah, but your heart's involved, so you hear people.
Yes, I feel a lot. I feel people's pain a lot. So if they're crying or they're hurting inside, I can see it or I can feel it. Whether that makes me an empath or not, I'm not really sure. But yeah, I do feel people's pain.
That just means you've dealt with yours.
See, as I see it, in living the life that you live and the impact you have on people, you have an effect of a therapist, but not necessarily a therapist. How many therapists out there who can't do that? They're
textbook therapists, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you go to a psychologist, they're textbook psychologists. They haven't lived, in pain. They've had the perfect life. I believe that half of these psychologists are just out of uni, and they wouldn't have a damn clue about anything. They just know what the textbooks have told them.
And that's what I've always said. You need to have some understanding. As I said, if I'm looking for a coach, whatever it is that I need coaching in, I will find out, have you been through that yourself, and how did you come out the other side?
Exactly.
Then I go, right, you have the experience. So yes, you need the knowledge. So those therapists who textbook learned have to learn that. But along the way, they have to get out of their the ego of the knowledge and apply that into compassion with the person to be able to build some experience around it.
Exactly.
I've got a guy that I knew when he started doing his psychology training. He lives in the same yard that I live in. John Hope talks about him. Other friends I got talk about him. He is probably, he's a very respected psychologist. He's brilliant at what he does. So there are some really great ones, but there is a lot of them, which when I started having my year of insanity, that I called it, temporary insanity, which was where I went back to uni to do a psychology degree to try and get my stuff into schools, and then realised that the guys that I was talking to, the psychologists, the professors, none of them, I thought most of them were only 12 years old. They had no life experiences. They'd never been out of the education system.
No.
So you're right, there's a lot like that. So it really comes down to, it's first of all, what's your experience, where's your heart, and then don't get caught up in whether I'm a therapist or not. Just know that if you listen with that open heart and you listen from a place of experience, yes, you're going to have an impact. You're going to have a good impact.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. That's why I like doing that. That's why I like doing what I do with, outside of my business, because one, it makes me feel good. Two, I'm giving back to the community, to these, to survivors, and three, they feel good because someone's actually spent time with them and made them feel good. So, you know, it's a win-win-win.
Yeah.
It's all good all around.
I think part of the problem could be too is that just as general population and being in the community, we've lost the confidence to be heart-centered and trust that that is going to be enough. We've got caught up in the label and the title, thinking that we have to have that. And the reality is, as you're saying, we don't. If we're heart-centered, that's enough.
It is.
So one of the things that, for me, that's become very prominent in my life and everything that I see, it's a knee-jerk reaction straight away. Want to feel good. We've got to feel good. That instantaneous feel good. That's why so much money was raised so quickly, because everyone, I need to feel good about this, so I'm going to put money in. So money's going to make this feel good. It doesn't.
No.
Money gives you the fuel to enable these things to happen. So providing we've got the services inside to sort things out, like the CFA actually do an amazing job of the mental health recovery.
They do, yes.
Yeah. So I actually learnt a lot by sitting down with Fire Chief. It's been put up on the Campfire. It's a long interview. And if anyone's got the time, I'd love people to watch it, because it's not about me, it's about Andy and about the recovery of Wye River. Because Red Cross were amazing. They jumped in on top of this straight away. They were there with the right amount of money to work things through. The CFA, they sat down and they worked out what are the key things inside the communities we need to support. And they looked at Wye River was the surf club and the CFA, because they're the two hubs and the pub, because that's what's going to keep things ticking over. So they supported them very quickly. And there was a lot of people that had to move out of Wye River and lost their family homes and bits of bit, like holiday homes more than anything. But it was a big thing. So the different levels of emotional recovery were broad. And being able to accept that is where the leaders of the community have to step up. Andy Hack is a great leader of the Wye River community. He understood that. So he was just there. When people got angry with him because they were trying new things and trying to do things, there's no right and wrong thing to be doing. The only thing that is 100% right is to take action. Yeah. You can fix an action. If you get it wrong, you can't fix inaction. And I think the frustration is becoming because there's been inaction inside of these things. But what the media is not actually sharing is the military work that's going on up and down the coast. Now, I was meant to be running from Sydney to Melbourne on the 22nd of March. I've had to cancel it because of the path, and I'm pushed that towards the end of the year. I can't wait to do it. And I'm changing the way I'm going to do it, because I'm going to do it because I want to stop inside schools. And I'm hoping I've got enough fuel money to get me from there and back, because I want to hear what the kids have to say. I want them to tell me their stories. My pain's going to be running from Sydney to Melbourne. Don't worry, that's going to be painful. But I want to share it with them. I want them to share theirs with me. And then that way we can work together, and hopefully I can do my tiny, tiny bit to hear their stories, you know. And I'm so proud of the Hack family. And I don't connect with them on Facebook, but their actions are what's helped Wye River be this beautiful community. On the weekend, I went and did my Bronze Medallion to be a part of the Wye River community at the surf club, because it's so important. And that's 4 years on. It's those actions. The Bendigo Bank did something beautiful because it was Christmas Day fire. All the CFA fighters from the local, so you got Wye River, Kennett River, Apollo Bay, Lawn, they all got in there and helping each other out. It was beautiful. So it's actually brought the community together. But the Bendigo Bank actually put on Christmas in July for the firefighters.
Yeah, I heard that, yeah.
And how, that to me, that's where we need to look at things. How can we get outside the box? What can we do? Now they do that every year. Once a year, they get together and they lived that pain. They share that story. When you share that story with other people, you don't own it. It's us. We're together. Yeah.
That's it. Thinking about the run and dropping into schools, I can see that as being a mobile campfire.
That's my intention. That is my intention. That will be my intention. So
I can see them being aired in here for people to hear those stories. And as we said, this was for men and women to be able to come together and share their stories, but it's also important to have the kids to have their voice as well, so we can hear where they're coming from and what their pains are. Because how can you help somebody unless you stop and you listen to them? As they say, we've got one of these and we've got two of these. Well, we've actually got one of these, two of these, and two of these, the eyes as well. And they should be used in that proportion. So it should be the eyes and ears that we're using the most. And as they say, when you're looking at different ages and different communities and everything else, you're looking through completely different lenses each time. And we need to see all those different lenses.
But our young people are our future. I mean, without them and without their stories, and, you know, where's this country going to go, you know? And we need to foster our youth, not keep them quiet like they used to in the 50s and 60s. You know, we need to foster those stories. We need to listen. We need to learn, and we can learn a lot from our kids, you know.
Yeah, I was born in the 50s, so it was very much a case of, you know, be seen but not heard.
Yeah.
And stay out of trouble and everything else. And half the time was we don't want to know where you are, but we don't want to see you either.
That's it.
I jokingly talk about when I started talking to my boys about sex, I learned an awful lot talking to them. But when it comes, take the jokes out of it, and you start talking to children. If you can see how they can see things, then you know how to talk to them to break down the barriers that we've got.
That's right.
You've got to know the other person. Yes, you've got to know yourself from where you're coming from. But I keep saying, as parents, we are not sculptors and we are not carpenters. Our job is not to turn our kids into something. We are gardeners. Our job is to nurture them. And the only way that you nurture them is to actually listen to them and watch them grow as well. So they can become the best version of themselves, not another version of us. Because
I have another story. I have another story about that. Our next door neighbour was turning 18, and again in Queensland, and my husband and I were the only two adults there because the parents had left the premises, and we kept following because we were smokers then, so we used to sit outside, and as soon as we sat at the table, you know, the kids would get up and go. And this happened 3 or 4 times, and then we started having a conversation with these kids, and they were actually opening up to us about, you know, how they didn't like their parents because their parents wouldn't let them do this or do that. And so we were not, we were giving an opinion about, you know, their conversation, but they just welcomed the fact that, you know, we were listening to them. And because their biggest gripe was their parents didn't listen. You know, and this was like back in the late 90s. Yeah, so even then parents weren't listening to their kids. How sad is that, you know? Why have kids if you're not going to listen to their concerns or their gripes or their, you know, good days, bad days, whatever? You know, why do kids hide in bedrooms? Because parents aren't prepared to listen to their kids. You know.
The things, the kids, we all need to be connected to other people because we're tribal creatures, and the kids are going to connect to somebody. If it's not their parents, it's not the school teachers, it's going to be their mates, and they're asking their mates for advice, and their mates have got no better idea than they've got. Then they come up with these stupid ideas and doing stupid stuff, and as adults we sit back and we have a go at them because, or have a shot because they're not up to scratch or they've got no brains or whatever it might be. Well, who created each generation? The previous generation.
That's correct.
So it's up to us to stop and listen to it. It's not a matter of going, okay, tell us what you want and we're going to do it. You know, explain to us, let us understand, let us then share our knowledge and experience, and let's discuss it and see what actually works. You know, father sits down with a son and starts chatting, or even a daughter starts chatting to them and shows them that respect and that time. The kids open up, they start telling you everything. And is there a bond then between the adult and the child? It's nice and strong. So,
and you've got to build that trust. I mean, they talk about, you know like and trust in business, but you've got to know, like and trust in families as well.
Well, relationships are the foundation of everything we do in life. And if we're doing that in business, we should definitely be doing it in our personal and social lives.
Exactly.
Practice it in one and do it all the time.
Working there, Scott. What's going on?
Oh, I'm just loving it. I'm like, I was literally just about to say to Alan, we should really be talking about our gardening theory, because Alan and I had a beautiful conversation, and I think we talked about it on here before, but it's just about, you know, how you bring up kids and understanding that, like life is the hardest game you'll play. You've got to play it. Yeah. And I actually think that I'm smiling about so many different things because I'm enjoying hearing everybody, but our millennials, I'm so lucky to have met quite a few that are doing amazing things, and I'm looking forward to bringing them into here because they do see things differently. But with our kids, it's about giving them the boundaries. They're going to push them all the time. I've just had a beautiful conversation with my son. Like I talk about him way too much, but he's gorgeous. He's my world, So, we've had a few changes in our house lately about the structure. That Marcel is now working full time, and I'm trying to work on different opportunities and bring more smiles to the world. So I'm now taking responsibility for getting the daily schedule going with Oscar, and I'm doing a pretty bad job, but I'm getting better because practice doesn't make perfect; it makes progress, which Oscar taught. But it's about giving control to him to actually have the power and the input inside what he needs to do now. So it was a little thing like to get his shower routine right. It was a bit all over the place. So sat down with him, said, Bud, I'm getting a bit frustrated with how we're doing this. I feel like I'm failing. You feel like you're getting in trouble. So how do we take control of this? So we sat down and we worked out an agreement. We worked out what needs to be done, how we need to do things. And then we trialed it. So we did a list and we put all the things in order, did a time clock. I went with him, spent the time with him. We did it all. Then we adjusted that. And then we sat down, did it all again next night, adjusted that. And now we've come to an agreement. And the agreement is his agreement because he wrote it. It was what needs to be done. And it's been able to implement that quite easily. And I feel that's very much what we all need to do in life is actually have that conversation, get all the bits and pieces out, look at the pieces, put them together, trial something. If it doesn't work, adjust it. Adjust it. It's never going to be perfect. It's just going to make progress and things are just going to get better. But we've got to be willing to actually put the time in and the effort in to do that. And it takes, for that 10-minute shower, it took us 4 days to get that right. Is that worth it? You bet it is. Yeah. Every single night, 7:45, he knows his agreement. He happily does it. So how do we get people to do it? We give them the ownership. We work with people, and it's in every aspect. The fires, life. One of the things, Rose, and I don't know enough about you, Sue, but I'm looking forward to learning. Rose, you work with domestic violence. You're hearing people. Then you're getting the pieces together. Then you're able to put them back together. And I guarantee it doesn't work the first time. You just got to keep working on it. Yeah. And that's our life.
I like the fact that when you said about the timing, like, okay, a couple of days and getting things right for just a short period of time, but really that short period of time is every day for the rest of the future. Yeah. So it's not just a short period of time. It's been a little bit of work up front for a massive outcome. Yes. A small outcome that's repeated over and over, which therefore is a massive one. And that's what we don't realise. Even when I talk to school teachers, they say, look, I don't have 15 minutes a week to do anything different to the way I'm already doing it. But what you're doing is not working and you've got problems that keep going on and on. You repeat them every year. And I go, right, well, if we looked at revaluing that 15 minutes and looking at what it will be as a return on, not as a cost, but as a return on investment of how you change your day from there on into the future, getting people to then look at that, because if we're selling a product, we don't talk about what it's going to cost. We talk about the return on investment the person's going to get from it. Because if I sold you something for $100 and you only got $1 value out of it, that's a crappy deal. If I sold it to you for $100 and you got $10,000 value out of it, that's a damn good deal. So the cost wasn't important. The return on investment is. So that's a question for parents. Think about your children. How important is the return on investment with them? What are you willing to do to guide them?
And so
we talk about the community.
Yeah, the same as about the bushfire communities. The return on investment is the time that we spend within those communities, whether it's the 4 of us or anyone outside of the 4 of us goes into those communities. What is the return on investment for spending a day in there, just giving a hand or just a listening ear?
What is the most valuable real estate? What do you think?
Well, it's going to be the time that you give to other people.
your headspace.
Yeah.
That real estate in your head.
Hmm.
If you haven't got that clear, you haven't got that under control, you can't give it to anybody. It's been taking up. And I talk about it inside the kids at tennis, you know, like I love it. I walk past this gorgeous young kid and he's like, I watched him play tennis and he was paying rent and he was in the other guy's head and then he stopped. And I'm like, the other guy got up on him and I sat there and said, "You're paying rent? What do you mean?" I said, "Are you in his head? Because if you are, he's focusing on you and not his game. Don't let him sit in your head and pay rent." And so every time I see him playing tennis now, "Sammy, paying rent?" And it's a smile, but it's true. It's the most valuable real estate you've got. I want to hear from Sue right now. I'm really sorry. You had something to say. I want to hear it.
I was going to talk about permission to fail. I think we've got caught up in succeeding all the time, and that, unfortunately, I think that's come out of our education system. And I think giving ourselves permission to have a go, exactly what you were saying. We're not going to get it right the first time, so just tweak it until we do get it right. And even then, it's still a journey, and it's, you know, progressing. But I think it's, and we've also got caught up that we've just got to have it instantaneous. We're not prepared to commit to the learning process, the understanding process. You know, we want those results, and that's what's got to change.
So how do you change it?
Yeah.
Very much so. But it's, you know, it's not a matter of, as you said, it's not a matter of doing it immediately. It's the time that we put into it. I think, Scott, you said to me earlier on about, excuse me, the time that you put into it, the value of that. If we get everything instantly, then we've got everything. What's next? You know, we're going to feel pretty empty. But in that time of when you're taking time to listen to somebody, you're not just fulfilling what you've wanted to do in the first place. You're doing much more than that as well. I always believe that, you know, no matter who I'm teaching, excuse me, if I'm teaching, I'm a part-time teacher but a full-time learner. Anybody I'm teaching, I've got to be learning from and to be able to teach even better again.
We all are, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Whether we're a parent or an educator or a business owner, we're all the same.
Yeah. And if you look at the any of the work we're doing, if the people who wanted to get out there and help people, just remember that, yes, you've got experiences. You also got ears. You can listen to somebody. You can sit quietly. If you're not quite sure, ask the person when you're talking to them, look, what would you like to get out of the conversation? Do you want me to fix a problem? Do you want me to just listen? You know, what do you really want from me? And because I can do any of those things. You know, and if somebody's then worried about, well, I don't have the solutions for people, well, just having an ear for the person, that's the solution they're looking for.
Exactly.
Kenny killed me with that. When he sat there and said, I've got to thank him one day, and in person, I'm going to give him the biggest hug, because it's the best question that I've ever been able to start asking with my wife. Do you need me to listen to this, or do you want me to fix it? Let me know, because I'm going straight to fix mode.
Yeah, you're doing the main thing, yeah,
absolutely. You know, because like
we're not very good. With all of those years, we were told, you know, keep our emotions, don't put your life on your sleeve, you know, suck it up, and all the rest of it. We were very good students, and then we turned around and we go, okay, now it's time to be, you know, more emotional. And we go, but we are so good at being in compassion and empathy, trying to fix the problem. And that's where I think men go wrong. We're good at fixing, but we didn't know, instead of going into all the emotional stuff and trying to be just emotional about it, where we just didn't know what to do. If we'd just been able to connect with the women, understand the emotional side of where they were coming from, show them that we understood, they'd be very happy for us then to go to fixing the problem.
Yeah, but that comes from caveman days, so, you know, really, there's a lot of years to undo.
So I think part of that, somebody might say, I'm only 20 years old or something like that, but really, no, the programming you got is every memory from every generation that came before you.
That's right.
It's all in your DNA. So, yeah.
So we're making progress. We are making progress. Like, and it's the guys these days. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of men. We've been asked to get uncomfortable and talk about our emotions. We're talking about things. You know, it'd be nice for women to let us fix things every now and then too. You know, like just say, do you know what? Go and fix it. Go and fix that problem for me, will you? You know, not just go and nail it together, but go and sort that out.
Well, it's
Thank
quite
you for sorting
often
that
women
out.
will say, be happy when the man says, okay, I've got that. But it's because she's already understood. He understands her side of things. She goes, okay, now I feel comfortable with him to go and take that approach.
That's it. Exactly.
So
Are we making progress?
I think, men
Yes.
and women,
Okay.
we've got that point where we've both got our expertise, but where we missed out was the connection between the two of them, or the transition between them, and understanding the women understanding the men, and the men understanding what the women were wanting, and how to talk that so that the men could get on and do what they're really good at, which is fixing things, and the women very good at the emotional empathy and bringing things together on that side. Doing that together, we're incredible teams. And that makes us not the same, but so complementary that makes us make the relationship so much more valuable, which is what I love. So taking that same approach, men and women getting together and talking within the communities to help these communities that are going through tough times. But it's the women who are able to empathise and understand more so, I think, than the men, that, yes, people have been through fires before, and that's going to come up that they're going through it now. This area may not have been burnt this time, but the fact that other areas were being burnt and they were burnt before, that's going to bring back their memories now as well.
Yep.
Because, yes, as men, we came in and we fixed, we rebuilt, but we weren't connected to the emotional side. So to fix this, as I see it, it's really men and women really coming together to talk about, their roles and coming together and bringing their expertise together, and then going and talking to the people in the community. And as Lisa was saying, Jane was saying about her bungee group, when she started putting that together and the support that she was getting there, it wasn't coming from the government, it was coming from the community. We're tribal species, we like to feel valued, it's all about love. We know if our partner values us, if we feel like we're contributing, we feel loved. The community, same thing, it's just another version of love.
It is.
And so go out with that same thing. Think if there's an answer. Well, how do I go and work with other people? How do you work with your partner right now? If you have a great relationship with a partner, go out and duplicate that with your neighbours in that connection.
I think something that I think I've heard inside of everything that's been on the campfire, the destination has never been, it's what we're aiming for, but it's always been the journey that takes us to that destination that's given us the true love and understanding. Yeah. So the more depth in the journey, the better the destination.
Yeah,
it's so true.
The destination becomes so much more beautiful. It's got so much more that that attracts us and everything else when you've enjoyed the journey and getting there.
Yeah,
you struggle to get somewhere with no support. When you get there, you go, I'm here. What next?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
So, for me, what are we all going to do? What are we going to do? We're going to go down there and spend some money in these communities and talk to them. I'm going to try and run through them. I don't know if that's a smart idea or not, but
everybody does it in their own way. And some people go, some people are going to put money in and all the rest of it, and I can't afford that. Again, as you said, the most valuable real estate is between their ears. So use that, and between their ears, their compassion, their heart, go and talk to people. Just talk to one person. I get on the train and there might be a hobo sitting there on his own and everyone's moved away from him. I'll get in a conversation with them, and usually those conversations are absolutely brilliant. Because some of the guys that are on the street, they've just had enough because nobody else is smart enough for them to tolerate anymore. And you have some brilliant conversation with them. So
can I share a very quick story before we go? And I know, Ellen, you're under time pressure. Last night I was on the way home and I drove past a pretty ominous place not far from my house. It's an old hotel they've changed into housing. A lot of guys from jail that go in there. It's a pretty daunting place. Drove past and I saw somebody there that I know. And I turned around and I just picked him up and I just drove him home. And I'm forever grateful that I did, because we just had a conversation and he's having a hard time at the minute and he's a good person. He's just having a hard time. Most people in life, and I've had my share, no one means to be in the position they're in if they're homeless or if they've got things or if they're in pain. No one wants to be in that place. sit with them.
Hmm.
Make a judgment call if they're in a safe place. But sit with them.
Hmm.
Best thing you can ever give somebody is your time.
And that's it.
Investment in you as well.
And I think that's probably the advice, the best advice we can come with after the conversation we've had. How do we help those people? Go and talk to them. And it's not just the people who lost their houses, it's also the ones that were fighting the fires. It's the local police and everybody else. I'll talk to anybody. Stop and chat with somebody if they're standing there on their own. God, I get into a lift and there's people in there, I'll start talking to them. Freaks a few of them out, but hey, it's a lot of fun as well at the same time. But once you start to get a conversation and the trepidation of what's going on when you start a conversation with somebody is gone and you start to connect, they start to open up. And the moment they start to feel trust, they start to open up. And if you've got that compassion to listen to their story and spend some time with them, you've changed a life. But you haven't just changed a life. That person then goes and talks to the next person and to the next and to the next. As they say, when somebody dies in a road crash, for instance, there's the whole family around it. But like a child who takes their life at school, it's every kid in that school knows about. It's every teacher. It's their families, even their siblings that are at other schools. So one person affects a massive number of people.
Yeah, I'm a great believer in pay it forward. I love the concept, and that's what I do. I pay it forward as much as I can, because I had no support for my issues. I, came through mine by myself, got to where I am by myself, and I think that what I've learned through my journey is worth paying forward.
That's it. And besides, when you pay it forward, you get paid twice. You receive the first time when the person helps you. Then when you help somebody else, you receive again because of the feelings that you get when you give.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, that's a gift, right? I'm just going to jump on that real quick. Sorry, Rose. That is a gift that you've been given, because your pain has driven you to this point and makes you so passionate about helping other people. So that's an absolute gift. So I know it doesn't seem,
I believe that,
but it is.
That's it. That's okay. Well, as you said, we're starting to get out of time there, and thanks guys for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
It's always, the conversations sometimes they start out slow, but I just sit back and let them flow, because I know the passion comes out. Everybody on the campfire who's had a one-on-one, and everyone who's come into the panel discussions, most of those people aren't therapists. They haven't been trained in academia to do certain roles. They've been through stuff. They've learnt from that. They're now sharing with other people. And, this thing, I feel very honoured to be part of the campfire because of everybody who's in it. So again, to the three of you, Rose, Sue and Scott, thanks for having been here today. And
pleasure. My pleasure.
Pleasure. Been great.
And that thanks goes out to everybody who's part of the campfire as well. So thank you for helping to make my life as pleasing as it is. And we'll see you all on the next Campfire Project. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.